Well, I would like to welcome everyone back to another video. I know it's been quite some time. My name is David Gunn. I'm one of three brothers. My other brothers are Chris and Carl, and all three of us, we comprise our own group that we call Memoryverse, or MMR3verse. And we're just a group of brothers who do our own custom designs for our own custom playsets and our own, custom artistic endeavors and creations. And this video today that we're going to be talking about and looking at is going to be going into, this as a specific project that was done for a specific customer or client based upon a specific request, which for us was the first time that we've ever done anything like this. We do our own play sets, but we've never done something for somebody else based upon the wants and needs of what they had. So we'll go on this video. We'll try to get into how this came about, what was involved and what was entailed. And probably a good place to start is, the beginning of this playset really began in the Facebook collectors group of Migo-like, which is a collectors group that is headed and created by Lou Melograno, who's a great friend, and he's a great contributor, and he's also a great content maker. And he's had this site, the collectors group, for years. He also has a Migo-like on MeWe, and then also has created a website, which is the mymigolike.com. And basically how this playset came about is going back some time, like a couple years or so, where Lou basically was just kind of joking around within the group, between different conversations with different people, about like how funny it would be and how cool it would be if he had a playset that was based upon him doing all of his unboxings and what's in my mails in his basement, and having some kind of a playset that was representative of that. And as that idea began to percolate and as it began to develop, eventually we had that conversation with Lou. Now, we came in after some things had already been established. And as much as, we would like to take credit for making this playset, the one thing that we want to make clear is a lot of the fictional narrative that has been created around this playset, based upon Lou in his own basement, was based upon the things that other members had contributed and come up with. Now, real quickly, I'll just stop and talk about the design process here. Lou gives us an idea. We start sketching it out. We do rough sketches of what it is that we think we want to do for the artwork. And then we start taking that artwork and we go into our own artwork programs. We used Affinity Designer and Affinity Photo. And then we begin building and mapping out the art pages for every wall or floor or whatever the piece is going to be. And we begin building it that way. So, as we were looking at that, and you're looking at right now, you're seeing that I'm flipping through sketches that we had done that are starting to, we're doing base sketches based upon the quadrants or the areas that we think are going to be a part of the playset. And of course, in the same design process, Lou was providing us with reference material. So that includes what his toy collections are, how he has them arranged, what the basic layout is in his basement, where he has things at and stuff like that. And so just keep in mind, though, that in this process of making this playset, the intention was never to make a one-to-one recreation. We were not setting out to make an exact duplicate of his basement. The idea was to take the loose idea of what he and other people had come up with and to kind of create a core element to it and then expand upon that and incorporate kind of a fictionalized narrative around that, which we'll get into that. So, but as we're watching the video, you're going to be seeing photographs and video of the playset, the art pages, and how they're laid out and stuff like that. So I'll go back. So before we were able to run with the idea of Lou's Toyroom of Solitude, that was a conversation that Lou ended up having with another collector in the group, another great friend, and that's Daniel Gates. He's a collector out of Australia. And the way that, I talked to Daniel Gates about it, and Daniel had kind of recalled that he believed that the conversation had kind of come about at one point in time, probably, during when Lou was doing one of his What's in My Mails, where it was like, Lou was like, hey, we're going to call my space, give my space a name, what would it be? And Daniel would seem to recall that the conversation was kind of like guys were talking about how they had names for their man caves or their toy rooms and stuff like that. And Daniel had kind of mentioned that he believes, he's not sure, but he believes at the time that when this conversation was happening that Lou was wearing a Superman t-shirt. And so for Danny Gates, he had thought about it, and to him it just kind of felt like the name that he came up with was, and he came up with the Lou's Toyroom of Solitude. And he just kind of felt that, Lou's actual basement, his toy man cave, is in fact his fortress of solitude, his ice fortress away from the rest of the world. So he came up with that, and he shared that and gave that to Lou, and Lou loved it. And then as a consequence, Daniel Gates went ahead and he made up like a card with a design that basically said Lou's Toyroom of Solitude. And then in that card, he also included the logos and banners of so many of the Lego brand of the toy brands that Lou had collected throughout the years. LJN and you name it. So already between Lou and Daniel, they had come up with the idea of Lou's Toyroom of Solitude. So that was the beginning of the basics for that. And for us, we began to play with the idea of taking that and it's like, okay, well, you're adding kind of a superhero element to this, so why don't we run with that? Why don't we say that Lou's, Toyroom of Solitude not only has his main room, which we've been looking at here, but that not only does he have his toy collections, but there will be some technological elements added to this as well. Meaning that if you could go beyond the main room that you see of Lou whenever he would do his What's in My Mail or his unboxings, you would see these other rooms, these extensions that would allude to Lou having, some sort of technological support for the things that he does and his collections. And over time, we began to expand on that narrative more and more and more. So like right here, we're looking at his main computer monitorization system. So, as you're looking at it, you see that he's keeping track of other toy collectors. He's watching what other toy collectors do, what they collect, what they talk about. These are people that he enjoys watching. He collects the information. He studies the toys. He's also on his world map. He's keeping track of where secret toys are, maybe some unproduced prototypes, maybe their locations of bootlegs hidden around the world, hidden warehouses, and stuff like that. So again, it's a kind of a sci-fi fictionalized element. Over here, we're looking at the Lou Melograno mail package materializer. This is where he can both transmit and receive all of the boxes and mail packagings that he gets from around the world, right? He can control it, and he can send it, and he can he can do it by the thousands. And again, in this playset, this is obviously all ridiculous and it's fictionalized, but that was the whole point. We ran with the idea that Lou and Danny G and how all the guys had started talking about, and we expanded upon that. And it was like, okay, let's do that. Let's make the playset more than just about Lou's basement. So, here we've got our stand-in for Lou, who's our model. And so these are things that we had also included here. We kind of were mocking this up and modeling it with toys and the mail packages, and of course our Lou stand-in from Dukes of Hazzard here. So again, the whole point is, we're creating this narrative, and it's a playset, so it's supposed to be fun. I'm going to stop here. So we'll talk about the exterior design. One of the things that we know about Lou is Lou's appreciation and love for vintage toys. He loves vintage toys, and that was one of the things that we wanted to apply to the packaging of this playset. The playset would have its functional areas, but we also wanted areas that were like advertisement of what this is, as if this was Lou's own property that he had created, like if it was a TV show. And we looked at a bunch of things online, but one of the things that we settled on for inspiration was we fell in love with this. which was the ideal haunted house. It's considered a board game, but it's three-dimensional. And we fell in love with the artwork of that vintage playset, which was made in the 1960s. So we took inspiration from that playset, and we basically, for us, we began to emulate it, but then also to give it our own touches and our own added bits. Now, right here, we're looking at another fictionalized character that came about not because of us, but because of another member in the group. This is Professor Lou. That figure that you just saw was Professor Lou, which was a fictionalized character that was created by another collector and customizer, J.S. Starbuck, who was another wonderful person within the Mego-like community and within the group. And that was another conversation that came about because Lou, I think, again, was doing another stream, and he had said, hey, what if someone comes up with a figure of me or a figure for this playset idea? And J.S. Starbuck contacted him, and they went back and forth, and J.S. Starbuck created the Professor Lou. And Professor Lou did not exist in anything that we were doing. Professor Lou had never existed before until J.S. Starbuck had created Professor Lou and then made it as an actual figure that he would give to Lou. And I think Lou at the same time was like saying, hey, if someone makes a figure or a character for me, you can win a prize and stuff like that. So not only did J.S. Starbuck create the main character, the main toy character of Professor Lou, but he also gave Professor Lou an arch nemesis figure as well, a villain character. And of course that character was Pool Shark. And so when J.S. Starbuck created that character, Professor Lou then became part of the fiction of the playset. So we expanded on all this. Like, you're looking at these panels here that we're looking at now. Here we have kind of the the weapon room, and these weapons that you saw on the rack there, those are weapons that come directly from the Professor Lou character. We didn't have those before. The only reason these exist now is because J.S. Starbuck had created that character, and that character now became part of the fiction of the playset. And of course, Lou's monster drinks because he's a big energy drinker. And of course, this would be the hatchway that would come into the weapon room. I think we also saw there was a computer monitor where he could monitor his pool and stuff like that. But, again, the whole point of this playset is that, yes, we designed it and we built it, but so much of the fiction that's involved in this playset comes from Lou and other members within the community. Danny G, J.S. Starbuck. Here we're in the portrait room. This is kind of when you walk down from his main, if you want to call it his mansion. You're walking down and you go down. You come down the stairs, and this is one of his other computer systems where he can monitor stuff. We wanted to do these royal portraits of both Lou and his daughter Amanda. And by the way, if I could mention again, it'll probably come up here again in the video, but on the outside packaging that we did, which was an homage to the retro style packaging that was inspired from the ideal haunted house game playset, we had incorporated, there's a stylized version of a girl who's showing you how she plays with the playset, which you can see like right here off to the left side. That's again another homage to Amanda, to Lou's daughter. So, again, this playset, it was all inspired by Lou, by Danny G, by J.S. Starbuck, all the conversations the guys were having within the group, that were just constantly expanding and adding to the narrative and to the fiction of this world. Because none of it existed before. The original idea was just, hey, it'd be cool if there was a playset of my basement. It started from that. But then with everyone else's contributions, the fiction of it grew and grew and grew and grew until eventually we just turned it into its own, if this was a show, if this was a cartoon that was in the 1960s or 1970s, and you turn it on and it's like, hey, watch Lou's Toyroom of Solitude. And then you could watch the adventures of Professor Lou and the adventures of Toy Command and stuff like that. So, for us, this was a great experience. We'd never done anything like this before. We'd never made something for somebody else before. This is a playset that's got so many inside jokes and inside details that specifically speak to the things that Lou wanted. And we've never done anything like that. It was a lot of work. It was a ton of work to do, but it was a labor of love as well. And we absolutely loved being able to do this. And then we loved, when everyone would come up with a detail, like Lou has actual lines on his property. So, in the packaging, all these things come together, and it becomes one detail after another, after another, after another, till finally you've got this cake that has so many layers to it, that it's like, it feels full. It feels full. It feels rich. So anyway, we try to keep this as brief as possible, and try not to go too deep into the woods. But that's a look at the Lou's Toyroom of Solitude playset. And again, we loved doing it, and we hope that Lou loves it and enjoys it. And anyway, we want to thank you guys for watching, and we hope that you'll join us again. We plan on coming back with a lot more content for you. So once again, thank you for your time, and we hope you had a good time. And we'll talk to you soon.